The invasion begins. Admiral Zorex of the Crixian Empire stood on the command deck of the Mindweaver, his flagship vessel at the head of a fleet of 27 warships. His iridescent scales shimmered under the soft purple lighting as he gazed at the blue-green planet displayed on the main view screen. Earth, another primitive world to add to the Crixian collection. Status report, Zorex demanded, his dual-toned voice echoing across the bridge. Science Officer Nixel approached, her slender form gliding across the polished floor. The planet is inhabited by a species called humans. Technological development equivalent to Category 3. Primitive spaceflight capabilities, but no interstellar travel. Bipedal mammals with relatively large brains for their size class. Another easy conquest, Zorex said with a dismissive flick of his tail. How many worlds does this make? 112. 116, Admiral. First Lieutenant Krillic corrected from his station. The Jorvians surrendered last cycle without even requiring full neural modification. Zorex chittered with amusement. Yes, I remember now. They were begging to serve us by the time we finished the first neural wave. He turned to the weapons specialist. Prepare the Synapse Dominator for planetary saturation. Standard protocol. The Synapse Dominator was the crowning achievement of Crixian technology, a device that could rewire the neural pathways of any sentient species, transforming their will to resist into an overwhelming desire to serve. No species had ever withstood its effects. The Crixians hadn't engaged in actual combat for over 3 centuries. They simply didn't need to. Synapse Dominator charging, Admiral, reported the weapons specialist. Full planetary saturation in approximately 12 Earth minutes. Excellent. Begin the first contact transmission. Let these humans know who their new masters are. On Earth, at the International Space Monitoring Station in Geneva, Dr. Elena Reis was about to end her shift when the alert sounded. The senior astrophysicist frowned at her console, where readings were spiking in patterns she'd never seen before. Marcus, are you seeing this? She called to her colleague. Dr. Marcus Chen hurried over, coffee sloshing from his mug. What is it? Meteor shower? No, these are artificial signals. Something just appeared in orbit around Earth. Multiple somethings, actually. Elena's fingers flew across the keyboard as she tried to make sense of the readings. They weren't there 5 minutes ago, and they're too big to be satellites. Could be some kind of stealth technology, Marcus suggested, his expression growing serious. Military. If it is, nobody told us about it. Elena reached for the secure phone that connected directly to the UN Security Council's Space Division, and I'm pretty sure they would have. The screens in the monitoring station suddenly flickered, then displayed the image of a creature that made both scientists freeze in shock. It had a reptilian appearance with scales that shifted colors like oil on water, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and a ridge of spines running from the top of its head down its neck. People of Earth, the creature spoke, its voice oddly melodic despite the alien physiology. I am Admiral Zorex of the Crixian Empire. Your world is now under our protection and governance. Resistance is not only futile but unnecessary. Soon, you will understand the joy of serving the Empire. Belina and Marcus exchanged horrified glances as the alien continued. Even now, our Synapse Dominator technology is aligning your neural pathways with ours. Within 1 planetary rotation, you will experience clarity of purpose. Your individual desires will align with the collective needs of the Empire. This is not subjugation. It is liberation from the chaos of individualism. Is this being broadcast worldwide? Marcus whispered. Elena checked the systems with trembling hands. Yes, they'd hijacked every communication network on the planet. TV, radio, internet. Everyone is seeing this. In preparation for your integration, Admiral Zorex continued, remain calm and await further instructions. Those who accept their new purpose most readily will be rewarded with positions of responsibility. The Crixian Empire welcomes Earth as its newest protectorate. The transmission ended, leaving the scientists staring at each other in stunned silence. Mind control, Marcus finally said. They're trying to use mind control on us. Elena shook her head slowly. I don't feel any different. Do you? No, just terrified and confused. Maybe it takes time to work. Or maybe it doesn't work at all, Elena said, her scientific curiosity beginning to override her fear. We need to alert the authorities and start monitoring for any physiological changes in the population. Within hours, the initial panic had given way to a global state of organized chaos. Military forces worldwide were on high alert, governments had convened emergency sessions, and scientists were frantically analyzing the alien transmission and the strange energy waves now bathing the planet. Meanwhile, on the Mindweaver, Admiral Zorex was growing increasingly agitated. What do you mean, no neural compliance? He demanded, his scales flushing a dangerous shade of crimson. The Synapse Dominator has been operating at full capacity for 6 hours. They should be composing songs of devotion to me by now. Science Officer Nixel looked nervous, her scales pale with anxiety. The humans are showing no signs of neural restructuring, Admiral. Their global communication networks remain filled with resistance planning, not compliance behaviors. Impossible. Increase power by 30%. Sir, we're already at maximum safe levels, the weapons specialist warned. Pushing beyond that could cause permanent damage to the Dominator. I don't care. Zorex slammed his fist down. No primitive species has ever resisted the Dominator before. I will not be the first admiral in Crixian history to report a failed subjugation. On Earth, the Global Response Council had assembled in a secure underground facility. Military leaders, scientists, and government representatives from around the world sat around a massive table, faces grim but determined. Dr. Elena Rice presented her findings to the assembled officials. The alien energy field is definitely interacting with human neural tissue, but not in the way they intended. Our brains are registering the signals, but they're not being rewired. General Williams of the United States leaned forward. Are you saying we're naturally immune to their mind control? Not exactly immune, Elena clarified. More like incompatible. Human brains are uniquely chaotic compared to most species. Our neural pathways are constantly forming new connections, pruning others, adapting and changing. We think differently from moment to moment. Dr. Hiroshi Takeda, a renowned neurologist, added, it's like trying to rewrite a book while someone else is still writing it. By the time their technology establishes one neural pattern, our brains have already moved on to something else. So what happens next? Asked the Chinese representative. If their main weapon doesn't work on us, what will they try? The answer came sooner than expected. The alien's next transmission displayed an obviously angry Admiral Zorex. Humans, he snarled, all pretense of benevolence gone. Your resistance to neural alignment is unusual but ultimately futile. You have 24 Earth hours to surrender unconditionally, or we will begin conventional orbital bombardment of your major population centers. Your primitive defenses cannot stop us. After the transmission ended, the room erupted in debate. Some argued for immediate surrender, others for attempting negotiation, and still others for launching whatever weapons Earth had at the alien fleet. Wait, Elena said, raising her voice above the clamor. There's something important here. They're threatening us because their mind control failed. That means they didn't expect to need to use conventional weapons. What are you suggesting? General Williams asked. I'm suggesting that despite their advanced technology, they might not be prepared for actual combat. Their entire conquest strategy relies on the Synapse Dominator. When was the last time they had to fight a war if every species they encounter simply surrenders to mind control? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. You might be right, the Russian general said slowly. Their ships could be minimally armed, with most of their resources dedicated to this mind control technology. But we can't be sure, cautioned the British Prime Minister. And even minimally armed alien warships could be devastating. Then we need more information, Elena said firmly. and we need to buy time. As the strategic discussions continued on Earth, frustration mounted on the Mindwaver. Admiral Zorex had never encountered a situation like this. The Crixian Empire's strategy for 3 centuries had been simple: arrive, deploy the Synapse Dominator, and accept the grateful servitude of their new subjects. Actual warfare was something only mentioned in historical archives. "Admiral," Nixel reported hesitantly, "we're receiving a transmission from the humans." "Put it through," Zorex ordered, curious despite his anger. The view screen displayed a human female with dark hair and determined eyes. Dr. Elena Reyes, chosen as Earth's representative because of her scientific background and quick thinking. "Admiral Zorex," she began, her voice steady. "I am Dr. Elena Reyes, speaking on behalf of Earth's Unified Response Team. We request a 24-hour extension on your deadline to allow for proper diplomatic discussions." "Diplomacy," Zorex scoffed. "The Crixian Empire does not negotiate with subject worlds." "But we are not your subjects," Elena pointed out. "Your neural technology does not affect us as it does other species. This makes Earth unique among the worlds you've encountered. Surely that merits special consideration." Zorex hesitated. The human had a point, though he was reluctant to admit it. The situation was unprecedented. "Very well," he finally said. "You have your extension. But be warned. If you are merely stalling, the consequences will be severe." After the transmission ended, Zorex turned to his science officer. "Nexel, I want a complete analysis of these humans. What makes their neural structure so different? And Lieutenant Krillic, assess our conventional warfare capabilities. It's been generations since we've had to use them, but I want to know exactly what we're working with." As the alien deadline extension ticked away, Earth prepared. While military forces mobilized what defenses they could, scientists worked frantically to understand the alien technology and find potential weaknesses. The future of humanity hung in the balance, but one thing was already clear: the human mind had proven to be more resilient and unpredictable than the Crixians could have ever imagined. The human counterattack. As the 24-hour extension neared its end, the Global Response Council's scientific team worked feverishly in a hastily assembled laboratory beneath Geneva. Dr. Elena Reyes hadn't slept in over 30 hours, but adrenaline kept her sharp as she analyzed the data streaming in from monitoring stations worldwide. "I think we've got something," announced Dr. Marcus Chen, gesturing excitedly at his computer screen. "Look at these energy signatures from the alien beam." Elena leaned over his shoulder, studying the complex waveforms. "It's pulsing at a specific frequency, one that would normally synchronize with standard neural patterns in most species. But human brains don't maintain standard patterns," added Dr. Takeda, who had joined their team. "Our neural activity is too varied, too individualistic." Elena's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "It's not just that we're resistant. We're actually disrupting their signal. Our brains are sending back conflicting patterns that are interfering with the Dominator's broadcast. Like feedback in an audio system," Marcus said, his excitement building. "Their beam hits our minds, but instead of being absorbed and reshaping our thoughts, it gets a chaotic echo that muddles the original signal." "That gives me an idea," Elena said, already typing furiously. "If we can amplify that feedback, maybe we can do more than just resist the mind control. Maybe we can actually turn it back on them." Across the facility, military strategists were assessing Earth's defensive options against the Crixian fleet. General Williams stood before a holographic display of the alien ships, his expression grim. "Our conventional weapons might damage their smaller vessels, but that flagship is another story, and any serious attack from us will likely trigger orbital bombardment before we can take out all their ships." "What about a targeted EMP?" suggested the Israeli commander. "If their systems are sensitive enough, we might be able to temporarily disable them." "Worth trying," General Williams agreed, "but we'd need to get it close enough to be effective. Their ships are well outside our atmosphere." "I might have a solution for that," said a voice from the doorway. Elena walked in, her eyes bright with determination despite her exhaustion. "We need to upload our findings to the military division immediately. I think we found a way to not just defend ourselves, but to potentially gain control of their fleet." On the Mindweaver, Admiral Zorex was growing increasingly frustrated as his science team failed to explain the humans' resistance to the Synapse Dominator. "It defies all previous data, Admiral," Nixel explained. "Human neural patterns are in a constant state of flux. They think, too, individually. The Dominator works by establishing synchronized patterns across a species, but humans actively resist synchronization on a neurological level. Then we must proceed with conventional warfare," Zorex decided. "What is our weapons status, Lieutenant Kralik?" The lieutenant shifted uncomfortably. "Our offensive capabilities are limited, Admiral. The Empire has focused resources on neural technology for so long that our conventional weapons systems are significantly outdated. We have enough to destroy major human cities, but not without positioning our ships in vulnerable formations." Zorex hissed in frustration. The Crixian Empire had become so dependent on the Synapse Dominator that they'd neglected traditional military development. Why maintain expensive weapon systems when you could simply reprogram your enemies to serve you? "Begin preparations for orbital bombardment," he ordered. "Target their largest population centers first. Perhaps a demonstration of force will accomplish what neural modification could not." As the Crixian ships began to move into attack positions, the humans launched their counterstrike. A series of modified satellites, hastily reprogrammed based on Elena's discoveries, were deployed from space stations and high-altitude aircraft. "The satellites are in position," announced the mission controller at the Geneva facility. "Activation in 3, 2, 1. The satellites began broadcasting a carefully calibrated signal, not aimed at disrupting the alien ship systems, but at amplifying and reflecting the Synapse Dominator's own energy back toward the Crixian fleet. On the Mindweaver, alarms suddenly blared. "Admiral," called out the sensor operator, "the Dominator's field is experiencing unexpected feedback. Energy levels are spiking beyond safety parameters." "Shut it down," Zorex commanded. "We can't, sir. The system isn't responding to override commands." The bridge crew watched in horror as the Synapse Dominator's control panel sparked and smoked. The neural energy field, designed to reshape the thoughts of other species, was being reflected and amplified back toward its source, toward the Crixians themselves. Zorex felt a strange sensation creeping into his mind, an alien thought pattern trying to overwrite his own consciousness. With dawning horror, he realized what was happening. The Synapse Dominator was turning on its creators. "Retreat," he ordered, fighting against the growing urge to serve someone else. "All ships, emergency withdrawal." But it was too late. Throughout the Crixian fleet, confusion reigned as officers and crew found their thoughts becoming increasingly muddled, their fierce independence giving way to a strange new desire to please the humans below. In the Geneva facility, Elena and her team monitored the alien ship's erratic movements. "It's working," she whispered, hardly daring to believe it. "The feedback loop is having an effect on them." "But how?" asked Dr. Takeda. "If their minds are similar to those of the species they've conquered, shouldn't they be immune to their own technology?" "That's the irony," Elena explained. "They've relied on the Dominator for so long that they've evolved to be particularly receptive to neural manipulation. They're actually more vulnerable to this attack than we are." From the Mindweaver, a transmission suddenly came through. Admiral Zorex appeared on screen, his scales a confused swirl of colors, his four eyes blinking rapidly as he fought against the neural reprogramming. "Humans," he managed to say, his voice strained. "What have you done to us?" Elena stepped forward as Earth's representative once more. "We've simply returned your gift, Admiral. Your Synapse Dominator is experiencing feedback from our chaotic minds. The more you try to control us, the stronger the effect becomes on your own people." "Impossible," Zorex whispered, But the evidence was undeniable as members of his crew began looking to the humans on the viewscreen for guidance instead of to him. "You have two options," Elena continued, her voice firm but not unkind. "Withdraw immediately beyond the range of our satellites and deactivate your synapse dominator permanently, or remain and have your neural pathways gradually aligned with human thought patterns. The choice is yours." Zorak struggled visibly, his empire's centuries of dominance crumbling before him. "And if we withdraw, what then?" "Then we can begin actual diplomatic relations. As equals." The concept of equality with a subject species was alien to Crixian thinking, but with his crew increasingly slipping under human influence, Zorax saw no alternative. "Very well," he conceded. "We will withdraw to your system's outer boundary and deactivate the Dominator. But this is not over, humans." "No," Elena agreed. "It's just beginning." Over the next 72 hours, the Crixian fleet retreated to the edge of the solar system. Freed from the influence of the reflected Dominator field, they'd regained their mental autonomy, but the experience had profoundly shaken them. For the first time in centuries, the Crixians had encountered a species they couldn't simply reprogram to serve them. A diplomatic vessel was dispatched from Earth to meet with the Crixians at the neutral location of Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon. Elena, now appointed as Earth's chief xenodiplomat, led the mission. In a pressurized dome on Europa's frozen surface, she faced Admiral Zorax across a conference table specially designed to accommodate both human and Crixian physiology. "Your species has accomplished what no other has in 300 years, Zorax acknowledged, his tone a mixture of respect and lingering resentment. "You forced the Crixian Empire to negotiate. We prefer to think of it as an opportunity," Elena replied. "Your empire has technology and knowledge that humanity could benefit from, and perhaps we have something to offer you as well." "What could your primitive species possibly offer us?" Zorax asked, though with less derision than he might have used days earlier. "Adaptability. Creativity. New ways of thinking," Elena said. "Your empire has stagnated, Admiral. You've conquered world after world, making every species think exactly like you. Where's the growth in that? Where's the innovation?" Zorax was silent for a long moment, considering her words. It was true that Crixian technological development had slowed in recent centuries, with every conquered world simply adding more people who thought exactly like Crixians. Few new ideas emerged. "Perhaps," he finally admitted, "there is wisdom in what you say. The Crixian High Council will need to reconsider our expansion policies." "And the other worlds you've conquered, the species whose minds you've rewired to serve you?" Zorax's scales shifted to a deep blue, a sign of discomfort in his species. "Their neural modifications are likely permanent. They have been serving the Empire for generations." "Then perhaps helping them should be part of our agreement," Elena suggested. "A gradual restoration of their autonomy, with Earth's assistance." The negotiations continued for weeks, eventually resulting in the Concordat of Europa, the first equal treaty the Crixian Empire had ever signed with another species. The Crixians agreed to share certain technologies with Earth in exchange for human assistance in diplomatic relations with other species. They also committed to a gradual program of neural liberation for the subjugated worlds, though Zorax warned it would be a difficult and sometimes painful process for populations that had known nothing but servitude for generations. 6 months after the Crixian fleet's appearance in Earth orbit, Elena stood on the observation deck of humanity's first faster-than-light vessel, the Resilience, watching as the stars stretched and blurred with their inaugural jump. The ship, built with a combination of human ingenuity and Crixian technology, was on its way to the first of the subjugated worlds, carrying a team of human neurologists, psychologists, and diplomats. "Dr. Reyes," her assistant called from the doorway, "Admiral Zorax is requesting to speak with you." Elena nodded and moved to the communication station. Zorax's image appeared on the screen, his scales now a calm green that had become his diplomatic color when dealing with humans. Your ship has successfully entered transit, he noted, a remarkable achievement for a species that only months ago had never left its own solar system. We're quick learners, Alina replied with a smile. And how are things proceeding with the Crixian High Council? Change comes slowly to a 300-year-old empire, Zorex admitted, but it does come. Your suggestion to establish a multi-species advisory panel has been accepted. Representatives from Earth will be welcome, of course. We look forward to it, Alina said. And the Synapse Dominator technology has been restricted to medical applications only, as agreed in the Concordat. No more conquest through neural manipulation. After the communication ended, Alina returned to the observation deck, contemplating how quickly the galaxy had changed and how much humanity had yet to explore. The Crixians had dominated through conformity, forcing every species to think and act as they did. But it was humanity's neural chaos, their unpredictable individuality, that had proven to be their greatest strength. The stars streaked by outside the viewport, each one potentially harboring worlds and civilizations waiting to be discovered. And humanity was stepping onto the galactic stage, not as conquerors or the conquered, but as something perhaps more valuable. Mediators between the synchronized and the chaotic, bridging the gap between different ways of thinking. It wasn't the future anyone on Earth had imagined 6 months ago, when alien ships appeared in orbit. But as the Resilience carried its human crew deeper into space, Alina couldn't help but think it might be a better one than they could have dreamed.